unless, because a Star Trek episode did solve this problem for me, episode 99, in which Captain Picard runs into his old archaeology professor who made the discovery of a lifetime, wants him to leave the Enterprise and give up his captaincy to go be an archaeologist because he found this incredible discovery that aliens actually planted that whole section of the galaxy with DNA that led to a common blueprint of bipedalism and symmetrical bodies and all that. And that's why the Romulans and the Klingons and the humans all look kind of the same, except for the gnarly stuff on their forehead. So I thought, oh, okay, I can't make fun of Star Trek anymore. They solved that issue. Anyway, but the point is that God could never be more than that, because that's all that's attributed to God anyway, is the ability to create life and, well, universes. Okay, well, this is possible, according to Freeman Dyson and some other sci-fi writers, that if a black hole collapses into a singularity, this was Hawking's big breakthrough with Penrose, the entire universe is like a black hole. So maybe when because there's a singularity at the start of the Big Bang, and then you have the expanding universe, and a black hole has a singularity at the center, what it collapses into. So maybe when a black hole collapses, it creates a new universe. So all you got to do is trigger stars to collapse into black holes. It's just an engineering problem. I know, it's way out there. But again, aliens would be, if we encounter them, they're going to be millions of years ahead of us. They're not going to be in a lockstep, perfect, parallel evolutionary track as us. They'll be, millions of years ahead of us. And look what we've already done in just 50 years. Okay, anyway, that's the argument. That's the best that anybody can do with God. So that's where I leave it at that. Speaking of aliens, so the appeal of aliens is that I call them deities for atheists. Because we don't believe in God, but the aliens might be out there. And so if you look at the sort of history in science fiction and even the narrative stories that abductees tell, the aliens are always godlike beings, or at the very least like angels, or they might be one step below God, but they're super powerful, super advanced. And just think of some of the classic sci-fi films like The Day the Earth Stood Still. The original, not the Keanu Reeves remake. It was okay, but the original is a classic. The original is a Christ allegory. Think back on that, right? So this being from on high comes to earth to warn the humans about their sinful nature. You are very aggressive. This has to stop, or else we are going to punish you. Then he decides he has to know the people better. So he goes out among the common people. And by the way, Michael Rennie's character's name, Mr. Carpenter. Hello! It was a Christ allegory. And then, of course, he meets Patricia Neal, who is the Mary Magdalene character, right? So they have this sort of tension, sexual tension thing, unless Jesus was gay or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But then he's tracked down by the authorities, and they kill him, and he's taken to the tomb, right? He's in a tomb. And then, so the Mary Magdalene character, Patricia Neal, has to go to the field where the robot is and do the classic line. Who knows it? Gort, Klaatu, Barada, Nikto. Yes, good audience. Which says, go get Jesus out of the tomb. So he walks over, burns a hole through the tomb, pulls him out, takes him back to the spaceship, puts him on the bed, does the thing with the little controls, and he comes back to life. Right? And Patricia Neal is standing there, and she's going, wow, that's amazing. You mean this is the power that advanced science and technology has, or whatever she said, something like that. And then in the movie he says, no, only the Great Spirit has that power. Nobody knows how long we're going to live. Okay, what a bullshit line. How did that get in there? It got in there because the Breen Censorship Board, when they saw the script, said, you can't say that to an American audience. Yeah, we're going to be able to control life and bring people back. That's the future of technology, science. No, that's playing God, so we have to. So they put in that lame line. He was hoping in the remake with Keanu Reeves they'd redo that. They didn't do that scene. Anyway, so. But so that's really, the belief in aliens has something to do with that, collectively, globally. And specifically, very specific examples. Sleep paralysis is our best explanation now for most of the abductee experiences that happen during sleep. Because about 3/4 of the accounts we have come from people that they say, I was asleep in my bed at night, it's 3 in the morning, and I woke up and I was paralyzed. I couldn't move, felt this pressure on my chest. I was frightened and scared. There was this being in the room. You know, it was this sort of really scary, dark, and I was shaking. I just wanted to run, and I couldn't move, and so on. So there's common themes, elements in these stories that we now know is most likely a kind of what's called a kind of lucid dream called a sleep paralysis, where you wake up, you're dreaming, and you wake up in your dream, but you can't move. And you have a sense presence in the room, which probably comes from temporal lobe stimulation, because you can stimulate people's right temporal lobes, and they'll have a sense of presence, particularly on the left side of their body. Oliver Sacks has a new book out called Hallucinations. It's coming out in about a month. And so he features me in there because I had an alien abduction experience from sleep deprivation that I talk about in the book. And but he's got a whole pantheon of these kinds of odd situations that people get themselves into, in which they sense presences and hallucinations. So I have a section in the God chapter on the sense presence effect of climbers, like K2 climbers, Everest climbers, but not just high altitude. Solo sailors, Arctic explorers get this. So it's mainly if you're under high stress, fatigue, hunger, it's cold or hot, and you're, particularly if you're sleep deprived. But being alone seems to be one of the common ones, that being alone under all those stressful conditions make you produce another somebody to talk to. And often these explorers, climbers, people, particularly when they get into trouble, the imaginary companion gives them advice, it talks to them, keeps them company, sort of keeps them going. Shackleton writes about this in his expeditions in Antarctica. There was 3 of us, but we all felt like there was a 4th person. So it wasn't just an individual. 3 of these Arctic explorers all sensed a 4th person on the ropes with them as they were, white out. Lindbergh talks about this in The Spirit of St. Louis, and that was only 36 hours of sleep deprivation. I mean, every graduate student has done that. And so you can, alone, cold, scared, anxious. So the brain just concocts these imaginary beings, whether they're gods or, in this particular case, aliens in your bed at night. So the amorphous figure then gets a label, gets a face. In the Middle Ages, the face were demons. They were the iconography of what incubi and succubi and demons look like, because they lived in a demon-haunted world. Our culture doesn't have demons as much. We have aliens. So the sense presences of that, bulbous head with the almond-shaped eyes and the narrow nose and almost no ears, and so emaciated arms and legs. That's what they've come to look like. So the brain has these anomalies, and then the culture tells you what to call it and how to talk about it. So that's the aliens. Now, are there really aliens out there? I think probably, but nobody knows. I think it's very unlikely that there would be no life anywhere. I think it's most probably we'll first discover bacterial grade life everywhere. That's probably just like we've discovered planets around pretty much every star they've looked at now with the new Kepler telescope. I think the next step will be these planets are just teeming with life, but probably bacterial grade life. I think the easy part is to go from inorganic chemistry to organic chemistry, and from organic chemistry to, say, protein chains and maybe crude cells. I think that's easy compared to going from that to big brains, because there's a trillion steps in between you got to do to get there. And to get there to the point where you can build radio telescopes and communicate and build spaceships that we can detect you. I think that is probably why we haven't heard from anybody yet. They should be out there. If they're out there, if there should be some millions of years ahead of us. If so, they should have seeded the entire galaxy with self-replicating robotic spacecraft. They should be here. And of course, my UFO friends say, they are here. What are you talking about? They're here. And the grays and the greens and the reptilians are living in subterranean places in New Mexico. Yeah, okay. Just bring me the body so I can see one. The next time you're on the spaceship, grab one of those widgets on the dashboard and bring it back, stick it in your pocket. And science, this is research, right? And we have nothing like that. But the idea that they're out there, I think, is compelling. We want to believe it. Scientists, we just have to say, I don't know. The arguments are good by the SETI people just because they have the numbers. 100 billion stars in the galaxy, 100 billion galaxies, or multiply that by 2 or 4. And so there's a lot of possibilities. But until we know for sure, well, you just have to say, I don't know. So one of the things you always remember to tell people when they're bringing up counter arguments to your arguments is, it's okay to just say, I don't know. Well, how do you explain the DNA? How do you explain the Big Bang? It's okay to just say, I don't know. We haven't solved that problem yet. And in science, that's where the action is. That's the exciting part, the I don't know. Maybe you'll figure it out. Oh, no, I already have the answer. No, you don't. Right, okay, so, all right, God's conspiracies. Conspiracies are a kind of hidden agency. But they're different. They're a different species because some conspiracies are real. Lincoln was assassinated by a conspiracy. Franz Ferdinand, who was the sort of the trigger, the assassination of that triggered World War I, that was a conspiracy. The Serbian nationalists, Black Hand, had a whole plot going to kill him on his parade when he was coming to Sarajevo. And so I have a whole section in the book just kind of deconstructing how that happened. You had like 7 different assassins, and each one was supposed to be located in one place. They had each had a different weapon, and they had to go to these different places and give the code word. I'll take those black cigarettes, please. And the guy, okay, here you go. Something like that. And so they did that. But of course, this is how it usually goes. Not all the guys got their weapons. They were stationed in the wrong places. One guy chickened out. Another guy missed. The third guy threw a hand grenade. It bounced off the Franz Ferdinand's car, the Archduke's car, and blew up under the car behind him. And so they sped off to the hospital to take the people that are hurt there. The Archduke went and gave a speech and said, "Thanks a lot. I come to Sarajevo in peace and you throw bombs at me." And then he said, after his speech, let's go to the hospital and see how our friends are doing. And the driver took him down the same parade route where the last assassin, sitting on the curb, despondent that the whole thing had been bumbled and fumbled, there he is, right there in front of him. Oh, boom, got him. That's how conspiracies usually go, right? I mean, think about Watergate. The most powerful administration on the planet couldn't even break into a hotel room. Right? That's how it usually goes. So the idea that 9/11 was orchestrated by the Bush administration, in which they flew these remote-controlled controlled jet planes, in which the passengers had all been taken off and gassed in these gas chambers somewhere in Canada, and then they flew them in there and they planted explosive devices through the entire World Trade Center buildings, both of them, two of the most secure buildings in the entire world. And somehow no one noticed that they were in there planting bombs. And if you know anything about intentionally exploding devices to bring buildings down, which I didn't until I looked it up because of the truthers harassing me about this, it turns out it's not an easy thing to do. You got to go into a building with sledgehammers and knock out all the particle board to get to the beams that you wrap the explosive devices around. No one noticed this in the World Trade Center? Guys in there with sledgehammers knocking through they were in there pretending to repair the elevators. Like a Mission Impossible movie, right, where everything goes just right. Okay, so the problem is nothing ever goes just right in conspiracy. So the more you scale up to the number of people that have to be involved, another number of elements that have to come together just right, and no one ever bumbles or makes a mistake, and no one ever tells anybody what they did. Okay, this is not Earth, and this is not Homo sapiens. 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. This is Benjamin Franklin's wisdom, right? People can't keep their mouths shut. At this point, 12 years or 11 years, 10 years something on, not one person has come forward and said, I'm going to go on 2020. I'm going to go on 60 Minutes and tell what I saw. Not one person, because it didn't happen that way. In any case,